just got all 3 solenoids in, which I am very, very excited about. Today we're changing the solenoids in the transmission on my 2007 Chevy Cobalt. Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for checking this out. I thought I'd give you some tips and tricks from my experience and what I'm seeing on mine that might help you save a little time, maybe save a little money. I'm at a point where I am about to take the side cover of the transmission off, so I'm going to show you that. But before that, let me show you a couple things that I've done that have been helpful that might help you too. Here we go. Okay, to start with, I went ahead and drained all the transmission fluid, or as much of it as I could get, without taking the full cover, the cover all the way off at the bottom here. So what I did is I started with the drain plug, and I've got mine cold, so it would do a little better. But right here is that drain plug. Not here, that's the oil. This one back here is a drain plug for the transmission. Okay, so I started with that, let that drain out, and then put that back in. And then, see how this is shaped right here? What's interesting is this is the narrow point on this side. So what I did is I just took these 2 bolts, loosened, I actually took them all the way out, and then I loosened this bolt here, and then I just pulled down just a little bit, and the fluid started coming out. So I just took a screwdriver right here, and just to hold the gap there, and just let that fluid drain out. See, the cover, the side cover, which I'm about to take off, actually comes and ends right here. So the idea is that if I get all the fluid out except for what's in this pan, I save myself the mess of taking the whole pan off. Now, if you need to change the filter or the gasket, then you should just probably go ahead and take that off. But even if you're gonna do it that way, start here and let this fluid drain out, because it'll just pour out kind of around here, which, you know, my bucket is way bigger than that, rather than trying to drop the whole thing at once and dumping fluid everywhere and making a huge mess. So that's a tip that I would suggest there. Okay, next I'll show you the other, we're taking off the CV axle. Okay, on mine, I was able to get the CV axle off. Basically, I just disconnected the knuckle from the strut. I did loosen the ball joint here. I didn't take the nut all the way off, but I did loosen it, and I did loosen the sway bar link bolt here. I don't really know that I needed to do that, but basically just by pulling this off, this gives me, and you got wiggle room here, so this gave me enough wiggle room where by pushing the CV axle in, compressing it, and kind of, I did have to do a little forcing to get it to come out of here, but it wasn't horrible, and I was able to do it and saved myself some steps that others have taken. Also, I haven't even done anything with the control arm. I've completely left that on. So give that a shot. Maybe start here with the knuckle from the strut, and then go from there. If you need to take more off, do it, but why do more work if you don't have to? All right, so I am now at the point where I'm going to take this cover off. So I'm starting with the bolts at the bottom down here, which you can actually see this way too. I am starting there because any fluid that is in there, I want to let that drain out. The trick is going to be to see if I actually have enough clearance to move the cover out of the way enough to get to the solenoids. Some people have had to take, like, drop the subframe, and I have not done any of that, and I really don't want to do any of that. So I'm hoping and praying, fingers crossed, that I can get away with it not doing that. So here's my biggest, where I think the biggest pinch point will be. Let me show you. So I think the biggest pinch point will be actually getting the cover around the CV output shaft here, because there's not much room in between the cover and the subframe. And so trying to get this out far enough to come around that is gonna be tricky, I think. But I'm hoping there's enough room, because I've got up top here, I've got the motor mount out and everything. So I'm hoping there's enough room for this to lean out and then just kind of pull up, or at least lean out, and then I can access the solenoids from the top. So we'll see. If you could join me, say a little prayer, hope this goes well, that'd be great. All right, next bolt is this one here, and I'm using a long extension, give myself a little easier access, which you can see. here. Sometimes you gotta care for yourself a little bit. Why not make it easier every once in a while when you can? So I've got the bottom bolts already loose, and I'm gonna go ahead and just take this one out while I'm here. Like I said, I've got these lower bolts loose already, and I'm actually starting to get some drips. Just gonna go ahead and take them out. Bolts look like that. They're 13 millimeter. Okay, so interesting situation. On this back corner bolt right here, I have my ratcheting wrench on it, and it only goes one way. Unless you flip it, then it goes the other way. So I was ratcheting and the bolt came out, and then I realized my wrench was stuck between the bolt and the subframe, and I had to use my fingers behind it to twist the bolt back in, but only because I noticed it soon enough that I was able to go like this with the wrench just to get it off of the heads. Because if you get that bolt coming out and you get it stuck in here, the wrench only goes one way, you're gonna have a wrench stuck on your bolt right there. So just be careful of that if you're using a ratcheting wrench like this to get that out. You gotta make sure you stop before you get your wrench stuck forever and have to cut the bolt. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get some of these other bolts here. You want to note that these top two here are studs, so that you remember that things go back onto them. I'm gonna have to use a ratchet on a socket on that one because it's got this hanging out here, and the bolt's right here. I can't get my wrench in there, so I'm gonna use a socket to get that one out. There we go. Okay, I have all the bolts off, and now this is the moment of truth. So I don't actually see a good place to pry from, so I'm just gonna start. Let's see if I can my bolt loose. Nope. Okay. So I found a pry point on the bottom actually. Screwdriver back like that. Pry forward. Oop, there it comes. Well, I've had a little trouble with this, and eventually I did get the front cover out of the way, so I'm excited about that. What I ended up doing was removing the motor mounts at the bottom here at the front of the engine, and then also took off the air intake box, and I took out this, took off this nut and this nut to make the engine able to be lifted up. So the back engine mount I left attached so that there's a hinge and some support still, and then I've got my jack underneath with some wood, being able to lift and raise and lower the transmission. So I was able to raise up the whole engine transmission just enough to get a little more room to move the cover past the subframe a little bit. I wasn't able to get it all the way out, but made progress on it. The solenoids actually go right down in here. Got them out. It was definitely the problem though. This clear, or this lighter color part is the electrical connector, and it is, this black part is supposed to be connected to the solenoid. Totally melted off and melted to the electrical connector. So I may be replacing that electrical connector. You can see here is what the other one looked like, which is just fine. Don't know if you can see it, but there is actually a third solenoid in here. It's this black piece right here. Apparently that is a TCC solenoid, which is a torque converter lockup solenoid, and I'm gonna get one of those and replace that while I'm in here. Here are the two solenoids I took out. You can obviously see that sucker is totally melted. Got my new parts and my old parts, and we're gonna do a quick comparison. Let's check it out. These are the old, and as I showed before, that is totally shredded. This one theoretically is still good, and it still shifted it with that one, but I'm in there. I'm gonna go ahead and replace them anyway. So I've got these two, and just go ahead and swap those out. And the part numbers, from what I can tell, are the same, and so they can go either way. Then there's a third solenoid in there, which is the torque converter control switch or something like that. And this one that I got from AutoZone actually looks different than the one that came out of it. Mainly the electrical connector on this is off the side. This one is not off the side. Also, this one has some things here, and this one does not have that. So I'm actually gonna go to O'Reilly's and check that out, see if they have anything different. The part number, according to AutoZone website, said it would work and said it would match. But I'm going to verify for sure. And if I can't find anything, I think I'm going to put this one back in because it was still working, I believe. So I don't want to risk putting something in that's going to cause me more problems down the road. All right, so I just got back from O'Reilly's this time, and they were able to help me find the right part. Check it out. Okay, so I just showed you these, including this part, which is, I picked up at AutoZone. The guy there wasn't super helpful. But anyway, so that's the part number I picked up, 520240. Don't recommend getting this part because it's not the right part. Went over to O'Reilly's and they were able to help me find this part. And I will link to this in the description below. And so that's the part number TE175. And here's what it looks like. Yeah. Look at that. It looks exactly like this one, including the electrical connection coming off the side, not off the top. So we know this is the right one. So I'm going to get this one in and get these other new ones in and go from there. Just got all 3 solenoids in, which I am very, very excited about. Now here's what I did. I clipped the electrical connector on to each one before I put it in because these have some pressure on them, and so they don't want to just sit in and stay. They want to keep popping back out. They kept dropping them. And so I just hooked up the electrical wire. That way, if they did pop out, it wouldn't fall all the way to the ground. It made it a lot easier for me to be able to retrieve it and get it back in. Now, to hold it in place while you insert the pin, which you can see sticking out right there, that clip, what I did is I just used a long screwdriver and just placed it and just held it in this way. And then with my other hand, reached down and got the clip in. And that seemed to work out pretty good. Also, once I got the clip started in the slot, then I kind of reached around and grabbed it, whichever way, and I had to put some pressure, basically using my hand like this to get the clip to go in and around. Went in pretty easy though. And I definitely started, I'm working from the top of the vehicle, so I started with the bottom one first and worked my way up. Otherwise, it would be a really big pain in the butt to go the other way and be working around your stuff. So anyway, that is in, and now I'm gonna make sure that the inside of my casing is clean because some of that plastic debris, which you can see down here at the bottom of the case, and inside the axle seal there, that's from the destroyed solenoid. And so I'm gonna make sure I clean out that case really well, just to be sure I don't have floaties in my transmission. The process to get everything apart is pretty much the reverse of putting it all back together. I'm gonna get this button back up and then we'll give it a test drive. It is now time for the startup. Let's do this. Oh yeah, no check engine light. Look at that. Awesome. Before I started the engine, I added 5 quarts. Actually, I added about 4.5, and then it started coming out. I had the drain plug out, so I went ahead and plugged it. So I didn't want to start the transmission with no fluid in it. So then I went ahead and started it, and I've pulled the drain plug, and now I'm adding about a half quart at a time until it starts running out again, and then once it does, I'll put the drain plug in. I've shifted through the gears and made sure, and I'm running a little bit to get it up to temp to make sure we're good to go here. All right, so as you saw, I've started it up, and now I am adding fluid. And we'll get this, about half a quart of this in, and I hope this does it. No fluid yet. I'm just gonna dump the rest of that in. See what happens here. And there's fluid. There's the drain plug. And this is an 11 millimeter. This is really weird at these angles. All right, I've got my drain plug back in and we're all set. Hey, don't forget to put your transmission fluid cap back on, right? That's important. So it goes right back where you got it from. There we go, there's mine. All right, let's go check the check engine light and see if it's still off. Okay, we are ready for another test start just to see if that check engine light still stays off. Oh yeah. I'm gonna go into some gears, let it run. So I've got the vehicle off the ground, obviously, when I'm doing this. All right, I am out for a test drive and I'm going 80 and I'm at 3,000 RPMs. This is awesome. Before I did this project, if I went about 75 to 80, I would be running 4,000 RPMs. So this is a significant improvement, and that check engine light is still off. Woohoo! So I'm gonna call this one a success. Okay, one other thing I'd like to highlight is the Econ get mileage, 26.9. I've been out driving for about 10 minutes now. And so the computer's been relearning, recalculating with the new shift solenoids and the new RPMs I'm running at. And after a 10-minute drive, it was up to 26.9 miles per gallon. It just kept going up as I drove on the highway. So after the 2 a.m. test drives, I'm so excited to say it works. The check engine light is off. The car shifts like a dream. Those new solenoids are amazing. Now, one thing that you want to be sure I didn't show last night is when you come back from a test drive, you want to look underneath and just be sure you're not still dripping transmission fluid. And if you are, just tighten up the lower casing or the side casing or wherever it's coming from. That should take care of it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video has been helpful for you to save some time and money. Don't forget to like and subscribe if this has been helpful. And remember that whatever you're doing, whatever projects, you got this.